I've completed Hitman Season 1 with only dogs. I've also completed Hitman 2 with nothing but dogs. And about a week ago, I completed Hitman 3 with nothing but dogs. So why don't combine them into one long video for you to watch? So that's what I did. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this masterpiece. Roll the intro. The rules are simple. I can't use anything else than dogs, not even the items I find on the mission. I'm also only allowed to kill my targets, so no non-target kills. And to make it a little bit harder, I'm doing it all suit only. And now we can finally start at our first map in. When I started, I had confidence, cause I already planned a strat in my head. Our targets are Viktor Novikov and Dalia Margolis. I was about to quit when I saw how hard it was to get even remotely close. And of course, that wasn't my first try. And now, it was time for my last target. I just climbed to the top of the building and gave Dalia a little present. Then I went down some stairs. Then I snuck past these two idiots. And then I exited via this mysterious tunnel that took me straight to my next mission in. I started off in the safe house, where I smuggled in an item. That item, of course, being a duck. Our targets for this mission are Silvio Caruso and Francesca DeSantis. And I also need to destroy a virus that in my head seemed kinda challenging. But I came prepared. I snuck my way into Silvio's mansion, then into his kitchen, and snuck through all his shit staff members. Then I snuck my way into the room with all the PowerPoint slides, or whatever you wanna call it. And after waiting a good 20 minutes for him to get his fat ass over here, then I decided to go after the other target. I just climbed on top of the roof and gave her a little duck. Then I went back to stalking Silvio Caruso, then I rewarded him for being such a dickhead. And then it was time for the virus. And as I said, I had a plan. My plan was to shoot this big stone thing. Yeah. And if you shoot it down, it destroys the virus. And I thought I could blow it up. So I knocked out some guards and took their keycards. And went straight down to try it out. And it just didn't work. For some reason. And after I did the run, I found out you can actually do it from the garage upstairs. So my strategy was to take this person's dongle, which is on the other side of the fucking map. So I did that. And I went all the way back, putting the dongle into this thing, and destroying the virus in the process. Then I took a plane straight to my next mission in. Marrakesh is, in my opinion, the absolute worst Hitman map. Anyways, my targets are Klaus Schrenberg and Zinedine Zidane. And they have two things in common. They're surrounded by guards and they're very hard to isolate. I started off by going to the rooftop, because what Obi-Wan said.
I have the high ground! The high ground! The high!
Then I climbed into the school, covered by guards, where my first target was hiding. Then I snuck past more guards, until I had a clear vision of his room. Then I waited, and waited, and waited a little bit more, until I could just throw a duck through his window and detonate it. First try. Now I only needed to take down Klaus Schrenberg. I snuck through a garage with a lot of military people and infiltrated the Swedish embassy where he was hiding. But before I could do that, I needed to knock out some guards. And funny enough, everyone in the Swedish embassy was both blind and deaf. And when I was knocking out the second guard, I got a very weird glitch. I just couldn't move the body. But I made it to the Swedish embassy. Then I waited for him to peek his head out, and I threw a little dog at him. Then I went back the same way I came, and exited through this mysterious gate that led straight to my next mission in. And funny enough, Thailand is also one of the maps that I don't like, so we are just speedrunning our way through this. Our targets are this guy and this guy. The first target was probably the easiest in the whole game, because I could just walk up to him and place a dog between his feet and blow it up. But the second target, That was a tough one. I opened the door to my hotel room, went out on the balcony and started role-playing as Spider-Man. Then I found out that my target was on the other side of the building and I had to go back. Then I snuck past some gardeners that were absolutely doing their job. And then I came to a stop. I was surrounded by guards and enforcers. And because I don't play this map at all, because I don't like it, I have no idea how to get up there into only. So I decided to try to lure them. And for some reason, they didn't give a fuck. And I just decided to run for it. And you know what? It kinda worked. After that, I waited for the guards to calm down. And I went out like nothing ever happened. And for some reason, they didn't remember me. And because I actually have played the mission stories for this map, I know that my second target comes into this box. So I just went inside, nearly got spotted in the process, and waited for my target. So now I just have to exit the mission. And I use the same shot I used when I came. So I stole a boat that took me straight to my next mission in... And I know what you're thinking, Colorado is before Hokkaido, but Colorado is 100% the hardest map. So just to keep it spicy, we're doing that map last. Hokkaido is a decent map. Not my favorite, but it's okay. For this mission, we have one target. And no, I'm not blind, there is 2 pictures. But the second guy is... Never mind, let me just show you.
To be honest, I'm not sure what to feel about this one.
And Diana, I completely agree. And now it was time for this monstrosity. I just made my way down to her and placed the duck between her legs. And left the mission like a boss. Yeah, I don't really know what that is. But it took me straight to my next mission in... Colorado has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 targets. And as I said before, I can only bring 2 ducks. Plus, I can politely ask Diana to stuff a duck somewhere on the map. So we either need some collateral kills or some other funny way. Colorado has 8 spawn locations, 4 of them being in your starting disguise. And the water tower is absolutely impossible to escape from, so we can't use that one either. I ended up using the default spawn. I snuck my way through this window and over to some haystacks, where I was waiting for my first target to arrive. And in the process, I tried to hide. And this guy thought he heard something, and he did, and he came checking it out. But luckily, nothing happened. Then I snuck past and got to a near area called the barn, where one of my targets were spent the most of her time, and also her last time. And then I found out something groundbreaking. This target would meet up with this target, and they were in very close distance of each other. So I got an idea, and it worked. But that caused a lot of panic, so guards were storming to my position. And the thing I didn't tell you was that I knocked out the guards upstairs. So I had to be quick hiding their bodies, or else I would fail. And I came dangerously close. And after they calmed down, I've just killed 2 targets with 1 duck. Or in other words, I just killed 2 stones with 1 bird. But I forgot to smuggle in an item, so I only have 1 duck left. Which means I have to get creative again. And the last 2 targets were definitely the hardest, because they were staying in the house area. This house has a lot of guards. And I got spotted a frustrating amount of times. And after 15 minutes, I made it to the back of the house. And can you guess what happened? I got spotted, that's right. But for some reason, he forgot his brain when he went to work this morning. So I snuck past, and I got to this position, where I knew my target would come through. And he did. And I seized the opportunity and choked the fuck out of him. 3 targets down and 1 to go. And I had a duck left, so I just... And I completed the last mission, completing the first season of Hitman with ducks only. And now that we are done with Hitman Season 1, we can move on to Hitman Season 2. As a tutorial map for Hitman 2, I think Hawke's Bay is a great map, but it's just too easy. You just pull this painting thing, pick up the dongle, hack into the computer, skip the cutscene, wait for about 30 seconds, throw a duck, make it go boom, twice, and escape. Yeah, this shit is kinda boring. Let's move on to the next mission in... If you ask me, Miami is the greatest Hitman map, and it's not even close. It's not because I think the main mission is pretty good, no, it's just the aesthetic behind a race car map, and it just looks cool. And don't even get me started on the visuals, because those are stunning. Anyways, I started near the dolphin fountain, where I picked up my stashed ducky, and used it to blow up a door, so I could make my way into the Chronotype building. So I made my way up the stairs and infiltrated the building, where Robert Knox was hiding. So I crawled out of this window, and used this pipe to get to the floor above. Then I made my way outside and blew up this duck to panic the guards, so I could sneakily make my way into this room to grab this dongle. Then I used the dongle on this. I need some help. What the hell is this? Anyways, but I got my target to get some fresh air. Or in other words, he just needed to fix the thing that I just broke. So I used the peekaboo method on his bodyguard, and if you don't know what it is, I can speedrun it in 10 seconds. When you stand in someone's vision for a long period of time, they will think they saw something and they will go investigate. And this can be used to lure out NPCs without grabbing too much unwanted attention. After he was unconscious, I pushed my target off the side of the building, and his body accidentally hit her daughter's car, killing both my targets in one go. Then I exited the same way I came from, and just because I had an extra duck, I decided to have a bit of fun. Anyways, I made my way over to the nearest exit, and made my way straight to my next mission in If you ask me, Saint of Fortuna is a great map, and I think it's because I did the Kill Everyone challenge silently on Saint of Fortuna. And if you wanna watch it, I will leave a link in the description down below. Anyways, Saint of Fortuna has 3 targets, and it sounds kinda scary, but it really isn't. It was actually quite easy. So I picked up my extra duck and made my way over to Andrea Martinez's villa, where I went up to her window and threw a dog at her, and then she jumped with excitement. And then I was very close to getting spotted, so I waited for everyone to calm down. And after everybody was calm, I left the villa. And now it was time to head to my second target, Rico Delgado, who lives in his own mansion. So I climbed up this vine, climbed down this ladder, and snuck my way into the mansion, where I gave Delgado a little duck. Next up was Jorge Franco, if that's how you pronounce it. Anyways, I went over to his cocoa fields, and because he wanders around so much, he was actually quite easy to kill. I just threw a duck at him, and boom. And once everybody was calm again, I sneakily escaped the cocoa fields and left the mission. And then it was time to head straight to my next mission in Mumbai is a decent map. I don't hate it, I don't like it. End of discussion. For this mission you also have 3 targets. One of them you don't know who are, also called the Maelstrom. Anyways, I started in the boat spawn, where I made my way up the mountain and used this flag to lure the Maelstrom to my position. So I choked out this guy, and once the Maelstrom came through, I just blew up the duck that I placed. 1 target down, 2 more to go. I made my way over to the train station where Banya Shah was hiding. And you'll think it will actually be pretty hard, because there's so many guards here. But surprisingly, it was actually quite easy. I just went inside and threw the duck over the fence. So far it was easy, but now it was time for Dawood Rankin. And he has his own little thing going, where he has his own building and his own guards. A lot of them. But I had a plan. So I infiltrated the construction site, climbed up this ladder, and scaled Dawood Rankin's building. After that I went to the elevator shaft, where I climbed to the top of the building. Then after waiting for this guard to move, I finally got to the top of the building, where Dawood Rankin was hanging out. But so I wouldn't get spotted by the guard, I choked him out. So I opened this door, went into the room, threw this duck, and killed my target in the process.
Dawood Rankin is confirmed.
And once everybody was calm, I quietly escaped the mission. And now it was time for the mission in I think Whittleton Creek is a great map, but the main mission is just straight up terrible. I just feel like the clues are unnecessary. But anyways, for this mission we have 2 targets, Janus and Nolan Cassidy. And we also need to find some clues that are hidden around the map. So I climbed into the park shed and grabbed my stashed duck. After that I put a little something into Nolan Cassidy's mailbox. And it may or may not have been a rubber duck that exploded in his face. After that, I went to Janus's house and climbed through his window. Then I waited upstairs for a bit, climbed down the stairs, and threw a dog at him while he was yelling. And well, he died. And now I was only missing the clues. And these aren't really that special, so we're just gonna skip over them. And now with the mission done, it was time to head to my next mission in The map is decent, but the music is really good. The best, in my opinion. Back to the video. I spawned in the default spawn location and made my way through the forest and went into the village where I met my first target, Noel Chris. And I just placed a little duck and made it explode. Then I waited for everybody to calm down and I picked up my stashed duck. And after thinking for a bit, I climbed up these stairs and gave my second target, Aka, my second duck.
Aka's out of the way.
Next up was the control unit, so I used the duck to lure out the guard that was in my way. So I choked him out with this very violent animation. And I did the same for another guard. And now that my pathway was clear, it was time to destroy the control unit. And luckily for me, I could just place a duck and blow it up. And it worked, so I went on with my day and escaped like nothing ever happened. And I headed straight to my next mission in... You're probably going to hate me for this, but I don't play this map. It's a great map, I have played it a little bit. At the times that I've played it, I was having a good time. But anyways, I started in the chapel. Chapel? I think that's how you pronounce it. And I made my way downstairs, where I climbed down this ledge and slid down this pipe. I went down only so I could get up again. So I climbed up and nearly got spotted. But I made it past. Then I climbed through this window. And all that just so I could get my smuggled in duck. And when I then exited the building again, my target was standing right in front of me. So I threw a duck and made it go boom.
That is the...
Let me correct you, Diana. That was Zoe Washington, because now she's blown into pieces. Anyways, let's move on to Sophia Washington. And she was also quite easy. So I just climbed up. Yes, there's a lot of climbing up this mission. And I opened the door, threw a duck and exploded it. And now comes the hard part, escaping. So I climbed down. Yes, there's a lot of climbing down on this mission too. And exited the same way I came from. So I was kinda lying when I said escaping was the hard part, because there weren't actually a hard part, other than I ran the wrong way. But I exited the mission with this ladder, and it took me straight to my next mission in... New York is, well, meh. I don't hate it, I don't like it, but I definitely don't want to play it, so I kinda hate it. Anyways, I started in the default spawn location, and for this mission I only have one target, Athena Savalas, but I also have a secondary objective, which is to obtain data. And I have two options. I can retrieve the vault data core, or I can retrieve 3 backup disks, and the backup disks are in the pockets of 3 people, one of them being my target. And sadly you can use explosives to open the vault, but you can't blow up the people with the backup disks. So yeah, that's what I did. So I got frisked and went to the toilet to grab up my stashed duck. And then I spotted the first person with one of the backup disks. So I waited and waited and waited a little bit more, and there he is. And then I followed him upstairs, where he was meeting with the second guy with a backup disc. So I just tossed a concussion duck. Yes, that was the first time we used a concussion duck. And well, it does its job. Anyways, now it was time to kill our target. And she spends her time on the top floor of the bank. And what if I know there isn't a smart way to get her down? So we are going to have to come to her. So I made my way down the stairs and snuck past this guard absolutely doing his job. Then past these employees watching TV and hid in the closet so I wouldn't get spotted by the passing person. Then I continued upstairs and using yet another concussion dog on these 2 guards. Not only to get rid of the guards, but also for the NPCs that would see me opening this door. And now that I think about it, I don't really think it was necessary. But anyways, I opened this door to get access to my target's office, where I threw a duck and made it go. And after waiting for everybody to calm down, I just calmly went back and grabbed the last backup disc. And escaping was just as easy, until I hit the guards again. Never mind. So I said my final goodbyes to the guard doing his job and left the mission. And with that, I've completed every single map in Hitman 2 with only using ducks. And now that we are done with Hitman Season 2, we can now finally move on to Hitman Season 3. If you're new, you're probably wondering why we're starting on this map, when I clearly said that we will be playing Hitman 3 maps. Well, it may or may not be because I forgot to have it in the Hitman 2 video. But anyways, I started in my own personal hut, then I picked up my stashed duck and went out to my first target and gave her a little duck. Then I quickly escaped and went over to my second target that was hiding in the training center. And I went over to him and gave him a little duck. Those were probably the 2 easiest targets, but the last target was a different cup of tea. I went over to his mansion and skedaddled my way into the mansion, where I snuck upstairs and waited and waited and waited until he finally came out of the room where I threw my duck and made it go boom. That also rhymed, that's kinda cool. And I went out as fast as I could. Then I snuck past all his underpaid staff members and took this boat and went the hell out of there. And the boat took me all the way to my next mission in. I used to love Dubai, but now it's me. I don't hate it, I don't love it. Anyways, I spawned in the default spawn location, where I made my way through this shortcut and up the stairs and out this door. Then I climbed up and choked this guy out and hit his body, so he wouldn't get spotted. Then I went into the security room, where I used this duck as a quiet distraction to get and I already think that I could just snuck past, but let's be real, this is way cooler. And when the guards were distracted, I snuck through into this tech area and made my way into the art gallery where Marcus Stuyvesant, my first target, was standing. And as the kind person I am, I gave him a little duck and calmly escaped. After I escaped, I made my way up to the higher levels using this ladder and jumping over this railing. And because my smuggled in duck was on this level, I just went over and took it without any issues. Then I went out onto the helicopter pad and climbed my way up the ladder, where I went inside and waited for these people to stop goddamn fucking yapping. Sorry, I don't like waiting for NPCs to move. Yes, Hitman Absolution, I'm looking at you. Anyways, I went up the stairs and gave the old man some fun time. Wait, that's fucked. After I blew up the duck, the guards started panicking. After I blew up the duck, the guards started panicking, and I just waited until they would come again and exited with a skydiving suit. And I flew all the way to my next mission in. Dartmoor is like Paris, but it's just so much better. And Dartmoor is also one of my favorite maps. Anyways, for this map, I have a day and night mod on, so it's nighttime and pretty dark. And I'm too lazy to record it again, so I'm just gonna boost the brightness up a little bit. I started in the default spawn location and made my way closer to the mansion. And when I was in reach, I climbed up this building like Spider-Man. And I finally stopped next to this balcony, where I hopped over the ledge and threw a duck at the old grandma. And I think she liked it, because she jumped with excitement, and I just hid in a closet until everyone calmed down. And I went out to see that 2 people were standing in my way. So I threw a little distraction and choked and hit both of their bodies. After the route was clear, I made my way into Grandma's office, where she had a save file that Diana needed for some reason. So I googled it and opened the safe with my newfound information. Then I made my way back the same way I came and exited the mission, driving on this loud ass motorcycle to my next mission in. Berlin is also a map that I really enjoy, but it has 10 targets, or 11, depending on the starting location. And that can be very overwhelming for newer players, but it just creates more opportunities. And for this mission, I'm going to kill every single one of them. Not just the 5 that the game recommends, every single one of them. And that makes Berlin without a doubt the hardest mission of the challenge. And that's also why we're saving it to the end of the video. That's called editing for retention. When I think about it, China is a map that I also like to play, but when I finally play it, it's just okay. And if you ask me what I don't like about the map, I actually have no good response, because I simply have no idea. Anyways, I spawned in and ignored this girl that wanted to talk to me. It's usually the other way around. Anyways, I made my way up this ladder and climbed through this window, but to get to my first target I needed to get upstairs, but it was blocked by 2 blue Teletubbies that were armed for some reason. So I choked out the first guard and somewhat hit his body. And then I threw yet another distraction for the second guard and choked him out as well. Then I went up a lot of stairs until I found my stash duck. And using yet another safety code that I could find on Google and hit up yet another set of stairs. Then I gave my target a little duck and blew him up. Then I just went down and through this game store to exit and used a duck to panic these guards so they would kindly let me in. Then I used yet another code from the internet to get to my second target. And after waiting a lot of time, I finally found a bit of a path that I could access without picking up any dongles and using my camera. And I of course used that bit to blow her up. Good. Then I just exited the same way I came and went to my next mission in. I really like Mendoza. The main mission is decent, but in Freelancer, I think it's probably the best map because you have so good snipe lines, which makes the map perfect for a speedrunning Freelancer. Anyways, I started in the shrine, where I speedran my way to my first target, Don Yates, and threw a duck at him and being very careful not to blow up his wife. After that, I just calmly left and made my way over to these fields, where I used the tall flowers to hide. And I finally got to the party area, where my second target was hiding. And because it's a public area for guests, I just went up to her and gave her a little duck. And exiting was just as easy. I just ran to the wine field and went through the gate. Me editing here. If you're wondering why the guards are panicked, it's because I just randomly decided to throw a duck for some reason. Anyways, and went through the gate. There was an automatic teleporter to my next mission in Carpathian Mountains. I can't pronounce this shit. Romania is not possible. At least I don't think so. Because I can't have my super sexy duck. I also can't bring ducks unless there is some exploit that I don't know about. So we're just gonna move on to the next mission in And now it's finally time for Berlin. And as I said previously, we have 10 targets, and as you probably know, you can only bring 2 ducks and smuggle in 1 on the map, totaling to 3. But somehow, even though it seemed impossible, I got it to work. I started near the radio tower and ran over to the queue, then I hopped over this wall and spotted my first target. And once the coast was clear, I snuck past and threw a little distraction. Then my target walked over to investigate, where he met a bald guy waiting to choke him out. After he passed out, I dragged his body into the bushes and started going after my second target. But 2 guards were in my way, so I distracted the first one and choked him out, and repeated the process with the second guy as well. After the guards were taken care of, I went down through the shortcut and stumbled across my second target, and because his good friend was looking the other way, I just had the time to choke him out and started dragging his body. And because I knocked out the 2 guards, I had an easy way to hide the 2 bodies in the same place. And now it was time for the third guy, and he was kinda tough to isolate, so I used the good old peekaboo method, and it of course works every time. Then I tried to hide his body behind the door, but that was too hard, so I just dragged him down the stairs. But there were still too many guards in my way to knock out my target, so I lured yet another guard over with the peekaboo method, and dragged him down the stairs as well. And now I could calmly walk past this guy and use the peekaboo method one more time, but this time on my target. But he didn't walk all the way, so I used the distraction to get him even closer. Now that the third target was unconscious, I had to get his body to the rest of them. And the guy I snuck past before had to go, because he would have spotted me. Then I dragged my target all the way down to the rest of them. Then it was time for the fourth target, and he was on one of the upper floors. So I just used the stairs and choked out his friend and him shortly after. Then I dragged his body for 3 minutes straight to somewhat complete the pile. And now it was time for the fifth one. He was hanging out in the bar area, so he was a little bit harder to isolate, but eventually he was just a distraction away. And to get his body to the rest of the bunch, I sadly needed to knock out the pizza guy. I'm so sorry, pizza guy. Anyways, after what seemed like an eternity, I was finally at the pile. And now it was time to complete the pile with number 6. And in his route, he was only a distraction away to get caught by the bald guy. And I had got to that part that I was so far away from the main pile that I decided to make a new one. So I distracted this guy and hit his body. And then finally the same with my target. To start the second pile. Or right now it's just one guy, but trust the process. So now I had to get to the party. And can you guess what method I used? That's right, I shot every single one. It's of course the peekaboo method. And after that I used the switch to knock out this guy. And now I could finally throw a duck without having anybody else than my target to pick it up. And then another one of my targets came around, but he for some reason had a guard following him, so I placed the gun. Yes, I placed it. I didn't use it, I placed it. There's a big difference. And that made the guard that was following him to go put it somewhere else. So my target was all alone, so I just used my duck as a distraction and creating the third pile. And the next 2 we were speedrunning, so I went to the lowest part of the building and got this very close timing where nobody turned around to find me choking out this so-called innocent. Then I dragged him up these stairs, and for some reason nobody gave a shit when I was just casually trespassing and dragging an unconscious man around. Anyways, I dragged him all the way to one of the top floors, where one of my other targets was hiding. I dragged both of their bodies to the second pile. And now everybody was choked out, so I just went around on a little walk and gave every pile a little duck. And after that was done, I just left the pie and blew up every single duck. And with that, I single-handedly, or with help from 47, completed every single Hitman 3 map using only ducks. If you like this video, go check out my channel. And until I see you next time, peace.